The balloon makes its first appearance.
Keep pushing. Hey,
Stop.
boys, push, push.
Push, push, push.
Nearly 90 feet long, uninflated, the
No, it's
envelope,
okay.
as it is called, will cover nearly the entire diameter of the circular building area. Throughout the day, the installation team will be heavily dependent on volunteers to make this inflation happen.
How many volunteers we have?
We have 12. How many do you need?
Yeah, we need 15. But please, I need all the people here now.
The movement and
On that
unfolding of
direction.
the balloon is a ballet directed
Okay.
by Eric and a piercing whistle.
Only when I resell, you pull. Okay, please. One people every 2 meters. Let it down, please. Thank you. So now you try to pull. We take the next and we fold under the knees.
The installers refer to the top of the balloon as the North Pole and the bottom as the South Pole.
And the south side of the balloon is only air. And the idea that with that being helium being an inert gas will expand and contract. Two factors cause the expansion and contraction is the heat and altitude. We need to release pressure as we're going up. Also, as the sun hits the balloon, the helium expands. Obviously, if we don't slow that expansion down, decrease the pressure, we'll damage the envelope. So what we do is in the bottom section of the envelope, we have the air. We let the air out. And as the evening comes and it cools down, we then start the fans and then reintroduce air. And that maintains our round shape then.
The most important thing about Aerophile is that they've been in business since 1993 and have had a perfect safety record. They offer extensive training for the pilots. They have a very well-known reputation across the world. They have 48 different balloons.
Indeed, bringing a balloon to Conner Prairie was a great idea that came with a gondola full of questions.
A fabulous idea that was highly unusual for a historic institution or for any museum across the country to be adding what's perceived as an amusement ride but putting it in a historical context. So my work was to figure out how to make that happen.
Over the course of a year, a circular area known as Clues Commons would be transformed, but only at the precise instruction of their French balloon company.
It was complicated. There were days where we're not, not only were we not speaking the same language, but we weren't using the same numbers. The mechanics and the placement and the physics of this product are vital. And so it was all the way through the architects, the engineers, and the construction that we were babysitting each and every move. And John Spickelmeyer, our facilities director, was out here for every cement pour to be sure that it was right on target and that everything was right where it needed to be.
And then there was the unexpected, the need for an FAA waiver.
The Metropolitan Airport is 4.8 miles from Conner Prairie. So we had to be sure that they knew of our presence and that they recognize that we have complete contact with them on an ongoing basis to be sure that all of their planes know we exist.
For the moment, the weather is holding. It is warm and the wind is light.
You're checking the wires and the cables, I think it's corked. But also it's going to be now attaching internally the fastenings for the internal light system.
The balloon envelope today is a far cry from what it once was. Tying this balloon back to Indiana's aviation history was always a key for Conner Prairie, tying it to their mission of immersive history education. The link would be one of ballooning's early legends, a man named John Wise, one of the top balloonists in America during what is often considered the golden age of ballooning, from the 1840s through the 1870s.
He was fascinated by the balloons and interested in the use to which they could be put in understanding the weather and the atmosphere and that sort of thing.
People like John Wise were beginning to convince the American public that it may actually be feasible in their lifetime to be able to travel across the country using airships, as they were being called. As part of proving to the American public that balloon transportation was viable, John Wise, early in 1859, flew a balloon from St. Louis to upstate New York. But that was a distance of over 800 miles.
Wise credited the success of that flight in part to what he called rivers of wind high in the atmosphere. Today, we call it the jet stream, and Wise is credited for helping discover it. In 1859, John Wise came to Lafayette, Indiana, to make a balloon flight. Having heard of his success in going from St. Louis to upstate New York, the local post office gives Wise a bag of mail to deliver to New York City. His launch date for his balloon, the Jupiter, was August 17, 1859, and it yielded two of the earliest known photos of ballooning in existence. An estimated 15,000 people came to watch. Lafayette's population was just 11,000.
It was a major event, and I would compare it today to a space shuttle launch. So he got his balloon up in the air, and it simply hovered over the city of Lafayette for about an hour. There was no wind blowing. He could not find one of those rivers of wind to take him east to New York City as he planned. Eventually the wind did begin to blow, but unfortunately the wrong direction. And instead of heading east to New York City as he planned, he headed southwest and eventually aborted the balloon flight in Crawfordsville, Indiana.
Wise put the bag of mail on an eastbound train from Crawfordsville, headed to New York City.
So the mail actually eventually ends up in New York City. The letters are delivered to the intended recipients, so the U.S. Postal Service considered it the first U.S. Airmail delivery, since a portion of the delivery process occurred by balloon.
And 100 years later, so commemorated the flight with a postage stamp. The weather is shifting somewhat, a little more gray, a little more wind. Under the roof of the building, workers are sawing and hammering at what will be an interactive learning exhibit based on the John Wise flight that leads to what is titled the 1859 Balloon Voyage. On the ground with the balloon, emergency rip panels and cords are installed in case the pilot ever needs to release helium fast. Now, netting is set around the entire balloon envelope. In fact, the envelope with helium is relatively unattached, except it is captive to the net. The net is what is then attached to all the mooring ropes and the gondola. By 5:30 p.m., there is anticipation about beginning the inflation. The helium hoses are run to the helium trucks, and then to the balloon envelope. Now, it is all about weather.
I follow you, huh? I don't know the way. So, this is the temperature. It's not 5 knots. Let's say that we are here, yeah? 7 p.m., 8 knots, 7 knots. According to the weather we have, and we check now, we should have a good window and a good night to inflate the balloon.
There were a lot of conversations that I thought were kind of funny.
Weather, but according we see what we saw now,
We're good.
it should be good.
Do you want me to say yes? Yes, let's go. They're like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, are you kidding? Of course I want to do this. But again, you have to really think things through, because this was a significant moment in the life of this balloon. So we were taking a huge risk, but we were taking a very calculated risk.
For 60-plus volunteers who have gathered to help, there is the community spirit of an old-fashioned barn raising.
So now we are ready to inflate the balloon.
While dark clouds appear, Eric explains to them how they will be responsible for keeping the inflating balloon on the ground with sandbags.
On the net, you have...
The sandbags are hooked to the net, which is divided into 3 colors, blue, red, and white. As the balloon inflates, Eric will command them when to move their sandbags down one mesh color at a time.
For any reason, maybe the wind will increase. I will ask to you, to sit on the sandbags, like this. Average can take 3 or 4 hours.
Let's get going.
Yes!
A piercing whistle, and helium starts flowing into the balloon.